Everybody's looking for a silver bullet, not really a silver bullet. How to make the silver bullet might be the key. And I think that's what people miss out on. They don't look at the process. They're looking for the bullet to be handed to them, but you got to know how to make it or it's not going to work.
Number 49 out of 20,000 agents is going to share the systems that you need to implement today, the expectations on your team, what you should delegate, what you shouldn't delegate. From over 25 years of experience, we sit down with Larry Lucas and he tells all today. So make sure you grab a cup of coffee and get ready to learn. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your host, Michael and Courtney Weaver. And today we have a very special guest with us, Larry Lucas in the house. What's going on, Larry?
Ready to rock and roll.
Yes, sir. Man, we are pumped to have you on today. Larry, out of curiosity, how long have you owned your agency?
Good question. July 1st, 25 years.
Let's go. 25
Yep.
years, and I
Yep.
feel like you're just getting started. And that's why we wanted to have you on the podcast today to not only share your wisdom, but to share what you're currently going through to have wild success. I mean, you were just number 49 in the company last year out of 20,000 agents. That is amazing. And so I'm extremely excited about today.
I hope we can figure out how I did that, because I had an agent tell me a long time ago when I was asking for advice on how he was writing so many policies. He says, I'm just really nice to people. I said, wow, that's great advice. Maybe I'll take that and run with it.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to jump right into it. Aside from being really nice to people, let's talk about, how do you think you got there? How do you think you got, or how do you know you got to that position?
Well, we've talked about this. The three of us have talked about this. I think having systems and doing things intentionally makes a huge difference. I mean, some things might happen by accident. There might be a little luck involved, but I really think you've got to have really good systems. I know when I started, there was an agent in our area. We called him the alien because no human could possibly do what he was doing. And it was affectionately calling him the alien. But the thing he did was everything he did, he had a system for it. It was replicatable over and over again. And Mike, you talk about that all the time on the podcast and in the academy and stuff. And I think people overlook that. Everybody's looking for a silver bullet, not really a silver bullet. How to make the silver bullet might be the key. And I think that's what people miss out on. They don't look at the process. They're looking for the bullet to be handed to them, but you got to know how to make it or it's not going to work.
Okay, so we have a lot of newer agents that have been listening to the podcast, loving the newer agent interview. So I want you to speak to a new agent. We're talking about systems. What are the one or two systems that you're like, hey, as a new agent, you have to have this. This will make your career for the next 20 plus years so much easier.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, Mike, I can fill an hour up with new agents. I love talking to them. I wish the company would pay me to just work with new agents all day. But 20 years ago, they could have afforded me. I don't know if they could now. But
Not anymore. You're too pricey now.
Yeah, I was figuring out my hourly the other day, and I thought, good God, how'd that happen? No, seriously, the first thing I tell agents, and I'll say this for the new agents that are listening, and maybe some of you are a couple years in, pay your taxes. That is the number one thing I tell new agents, because I don't think a lot of agents, no matter what company they're with, if they're successful, that will sneak up on you. And a lot of agents, a lot of business owners underestimate that. The dry cleaner that was my landlord when I started my agency, third generation, lost his business because he wasn't paying his taxes, and he got in a pickle and couldn't get out of it. So that's my first advice. But when it comes to systems, the things that I've told most agents to do is, first of all, looking for single line or monoline business, and then looking for contact systems to contact those people, to try to multi-line them, to sell deep. A big agent in the area one time told me, Hal Gerard, I'll also shout out to Hal Gerard. Hal told me one time, he said, if I didn't sell another new household and could just go one deeper on every household I had, I'd never have to work again. And I've taken that to heart, because a lot of agents underestimate the power of multi-lining or cross-selling their book. So looking for those single line customers, having a very intentional system every month, even to this day, we're still handwriting postcards. I'm not, but somebody in my office is handwriting postcards to every single line household telling them you're eligible for a discount. We offer more services, looking for that extra line because it does two things. It helps you grow, and everybody knows, everybody in our business knows, multi-line business is a lot stickier. So that's one of the biggest things. And the other thing is intentionally meeting with your customers. In this world of digital, virtual, email, text, and all this stuff, sure, there's a third of your business that doesn't care to ever meet with you. There's a third of your business that if you invite them, they'll come. And there's another third that if you don't call them, they wonder why. And that 66% that wants to meet, even if you invite them or whether they just want to, you have to have an intentional system of constantly meeting with your customers. Not waiting till something's wrong. We do homeowner renewals or fire renewals, whether they're a renter or homeowner. And then all of our life insurance customers, we meet with them repeatedly. The 30 and 5 program, we just do it over and over and over and over again. I mean, those systems work. And if you continually do them intentionally, two things happen. One, it works, and two, you get really, really good at it. And the better you get at it, the more natural you feel with the word tracks and the concepts, the more people will listen, and the more they'll engage with you. And if you get customers to engage with you, you're winning.
Yep. Amen. All right, let's go into these just real fast. So definitely pay your taxes. If you're listening to this right now, definitely pay your taxes. That's great. That is a great first tip to say.
That is a great first tip.
Let's dive into the first process, though. So cross-selling on single line. Out of curiosity, Larry, are you having your sales team do that? Are you having like your hybrid service/sales do that? Is it one specific person and that's all their job role is to call on single lines, or kind of talk us through what that process looks like?
Yeah, we have two methods. One is the postcard. Denise Thomas, the agent that I'm going to be taking part of her agency when she retires, she's the one that turned me on to the handwritten postcard. And we did them for years. We did them in red ink on the postcard. Call us about a discount. You're eligible for a discount. Give us a call. The salespeople are doing that. At this juncture, a lot of it's automated. With all the postcards and things that we have now, it's just we've gotten so big now. It's hard to handwrite a postcard to every single customer. My team members, though, the sales team members, they'll look for the larger households. With 5 or 6 cars. That are single line, that's very low hanging fruit. They'll still handwrite a postcard and pick up the phone and call those people. But postcards are like gold in our office. I think people, they might throw them in the trash, but they're going to take a quick glance at what it is. And a lot of time, if they see something regarding a discount from their insurance company or their agent, they're at least going to look at it as they throw it in the trash can, and they'll probably give you a call. So it's worked for us for literally 25 years. I know that sounds like a simple process. But I'll tell you, like I was telling you about Bob Joyner earlier, it's one of those blocking and tackling things. If you're good at it and you're consistent at it, you'll get results.
Okay, so the process is, and you pretty much have it automated now to where any single line household in your book of business automatically receives a mailer talking about discounts, probably a couple times a year.
A postcard at every renewal. So if they've got one card, they get two a year every 6 months. If they've got 6 cars, depending on when they renew, we're blowing them up because, again, that's your that's the person that really needs to have that discount, that really is not getting the best value, and we're trying to drill down on the value that they're going to get.
Okay. I love that. So you have any follow-ups about that? Okay. Let's get into the meeting with customers. So I absolutely love meeting with customers, and I love the breakdown that you gave. Like 33% will never want to meet, 33% will meet, 33% will say, like, why aren't we meeting more, or why haven't you called me, right? So I love that you break those down, and I'm a big, if anyone is in listening to this right now and they're like, oh, I don't know, people just don't want to meet anymore. That's just not a true story. I mean, 83% of Gen Z say they want a relationship with their financial professional, 79% of millennials. So I believe that as AI continues to enter our world of what we do from an insurance and financial services aspect, I believe that the in-person or human-to-human connection is going to be even more important and allow salespeople to do what they do best, and that's to have conversations that matter and conversations that convert. So I would love to know right now, you said you're targeting your fire renewals and life, and are you meeting with them are you actively calling to set those appointments? You have mailers going out, you have text messages. What does that process look like? Just high level for us real fast.
So it's really multi-level on the systems for those people, because when we write a new customer, and we're still writing new customers on a regular basis, obviously, part of their onboarding process is one of the steps is to go ahead and set that review appointment up for that customer after they've been with us for a year. We hit them in 11 months. But what happens naturally is if they have another policy with us that we can renew sooner, sometimes with the auto policy, we'll set it up for renewal. It depends on the customer. But 99% of the time, we're setting that renewal up during the onboarding process. We've hired the vendors because we can't make all the calls ourselves anymore. So we have one of the calling vendors. I don't know if it's okay to say who they are or not, but we use EngageX. Okay. One of the really successful agents in our state goes back and forth between the vendors, depending on what they're doing. But so far, we've had good success with the calling vendors, reaching out to them, setting those appointments. We set them up alphabetically. My team is broken down by the alphabet. We constantly renew that to make sure it's accurate. And then if the customer, wants to meet with me personally, then they've got, Tuesdays and Thursdays are my appointment days. So they'll get an appointment on either of those days. And sometimes it might take a week or two for them to get in if they want to meet with me. But we make it the appointment setters make it real clear that they can get in a lot sooner if they're willing to meet with one of the team members, fully licensed team members, to come and review everything. If they have investments, I meet with most of those, if not all of them. Like I said, I'm expanding that part of the office where I've got more team members that'll be licensed and capable of helping me with those clients as we grow that part of the business. But yeah, it's the onboarding process and then the renewal process that we hit all of those.
Okay. I absolutely love that you're onboarding customers. That's that is a process that we teach at Weaver Sales Academy. Like right when you close the business, you set the onboarding. So I love that you're doing that. And you're
a lot of people overlook that, Mike. I mean, that's what, we already had a process, and when we started Weaver Sales Academy, it just solidified that we were doing things that we should have been doing to start with. And we took some things away from the Sales Academy as well, from Weaver Sales Academy, to add to that process. One of the things is constantly renewing it, making sure that it's working, looking at the statistics, making sure that we're getting results, eliminating things that weren't necessary, or reassigning things to other people in the office to make sure that the process was efficient. I mean, something as simple as putting the goodie bags together. We give away goodie bags for those customers as a way to get them to come into the office a lot of times. And, had sales guys were going back there filling up goodie bags every time somebody would come in for an appointment. I said, it doesn't make sense. We've got support folks in the office, service team members that are way better at it than the sales guys. And so, just changing those assignments sometimes makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. Okay, so I kind of double down on a little something here. You said that you are having appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So after 25 years as an agent, tell me why you're still holding appointments, or your thought process behind that.
I'll tell you the same thing I tell people when I answer the phone. I still work for a living. Listen, guys, I still enjoy it. I still love meeting with clients. I went to a house 5 or 6 weeks ago. A customer lost his wife at 52. His mother called me and said, the appointment for him to come in and do the paperwork came up, and she called in about an hour before the appointment. And she said, "Listen, Ron can barely get out of the bed." And I knew him. He's one of the customers I wrote when I first started. I remembered him. Those people you remember, the ones from the beginning.
Yep.
And I said, "You tell Ron I'll be there in a couple hours. I'm going to come over. You just tell him to take his time getting up." And I drove over there and went through the whole thing at the kitchen table. and he was he was okay when I got there. And I went through the whole thing, what was going to happen with probate and all the stuff they have to do. And here's the claim form for the life policy. And um, his mother looked across the table. She said, "I can't believe you're here doing this. My agent would never do this." And I said, "Well, you got the wrong agent. You know, um, either you love it or you don't. And I think the people that love it are going to be successful naturally. If you don't love it, hire people that love it. That's what you got to do. So that's why I meet with people, Mike. I mean, it's just, I still like it. I know a lot of agents don't. I have a very, very close friend who just doesn't like meeting with clients anymore, but he's got fantastic team members that love to meet with customers, and he trained them, and they do things the way he used to do it, and that's okay. I mean, he's running his business. So I still like working in the business a little bit too.
What's something that you delegated very, very quickly that you did not enjoy?
Um, wow, some of the first things I delegated back in the early days, hiring a payroll company was a big step because I felt like I needed to have my hands on the money. That was a big one, and it was hard for me to let go of all the appointments. I mean, great day. Letting a team member meet with my customers and go through the whole conversation. That was kind of scary in the beginning, but colleagues around me said, "Larry, you trained them. They're good. They're good team members. Let it go. Let them handle it." And there's nothing better in the world for me than to walk by an office or be on my virtual office and hear my words coming out of a team member's mouth. It's like, I think it's like when somebody writes a song and they're on the stage in a big stadium and they stop singing the song and the crowd keeps singing it. That's kind of what it is for me. Y'all know what I'm talking about? I mean,
Exactly.
Yes.
I know that's weird, but
No, it's not. No, it's not.
it's really cool. It's really
It is
cool to
cool.
hear people in my office saying and some of them, one of my sons works for me, and he used to make fun of all the stuff I'd said all the time. He'd hear me come home and talk about things at work, and he's like, "Gosh, Dad, you say that to everybody." And now I walk by the office and hear him saying it, and I just crack up.
I'm the same way. When I hear team members or agents during our role play sessions at Weaver Sells and they sound like me, I'm like, heck yeah, they did
Yeah.
the training, baby. They're doing it and it's working.
Well, that's just another reminder. You better teach them right because they're going to do it the way you told them.
Exactly.
So
That's right.
Don't teach them wrong.
Exactly.
Larry, it's funny that you mentioned appointments were hard for you because I don't know if I've ever publicly said this out loud, but that was one of the hardest things for me to also like delegate as an agent. I mean, as a new market agent, you remember this, like I met with every customer for the first 3 years. So I met with almost 80% of people that came through our business. And when I started delegating it was that weird feeling of like letting go and
Having to trust somebody
having
else.
to trust someone. So Larry, I'm glad that you said that because I've never actually, I don't think I've ever said that out loud. Like that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do was delegate appointments because I felt like my customers, damn, I just appreciated my customers so much because they were the reason, them and the team are the reason why the business ran. And without customer support, I mean, you go broke. And you have to have a trained team to be able to trust them to do that. So thanks for saying that because that is one thing that I know a lot of other agents have a hard time letting go as well.
In the early days, I felt, when I started with State Farm, this company I worked for, State Farm, they talked about being your own CEO, and that was a big thing back then. And it never really caught on with me. I've always said I'm more like a dentist. I know people use this illustration all the time, but I feel like it was more like a dentist office. I'm trying to get to the car dealer level. Nobody ever wants to talk to the guy that owns the car dealership, but everybody knows who he is. That's where I want to get. I'm still in the dentist, endodontist. If you need a root canal, I'm your guy, but I'm not going to clean your teeth, that kind of thing. And you don't want me to clean your teeth. I'm terrible at it. It's just like you don't want the doctor to give you a shot. You want the nurse to do that, because that's what they do. And so that's kind of where I want to get. But yeah, letting go of that. The important thing is making sure that they're well trained. But I would still, for years, Michael, I'd still go into the office when they were, at some point in the process, usually towards the end when I know they'd kind of finished up and they were either going for a sale towards the end after they found a need and they were going in to talk about a sale. I'd still go in and shake the hand and hey, anything you need to ask me or anything? Because I just felt like sometimes you get something out of them that the team member might not get out of them. They might ask you a question they wouldn't have asked the team member. So, and the good part about that was the team member then could anticipate that question from another customer the next time and just anticipate that question. Hey, a lot of customers always ask Larry this question. And so that just kind of snowballed where, like I said, hearing the same words that I would say come out of their mouths is a real, it's a blessing is what it is. So, and my team will be listening to this. So I got to be honest and tell them that. So, and tell them I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
So before I move on from the appointments, is there an expectation in your office with a certain amount of appointments on a weekly, monthly basis? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think we send them 300 names. I've got an operations manager, then an office manager, and a service manager. So the operations manager puts the list together. She sends them about 300 names every month. And our book is, I think we've got about 3,500 households in the book, right at 3,500. So, if we can get 30 of those to show up every month, I'm okay with that. That's the number I'm looking for. And some months they show up, some months they don't. It's just like the 30, 30, 30. You don't, if they want to come, they'll come. If they don't. But, with the virtual technology we have now, State Farm has given us this fantastic virtual technology. A lot of people want to do phone appointments. We try not to do that because they're just ineffective most of the time. They're driving down the road talking to you. But we've really tried to leverage the virtual stuff or the in-office appointment. And we write in 3 states now. So it's gotten to where you have to give the customers options.
Yep.
And again, that's evolving all the time. I'd never fathomed I'd be writing business outside of my market, much less the whole state, much less 3 states. I mean, just never dreamed in a million years that we'd be doing this, but a lot of things I never dreamed would be happening. So,
Well, we might get to talk about those today a little bit. I just want to reiterate what you just said. So 30 appointments a month. Because I get asked all the time, well, Michael, like, how many appointments should I be having? Do I need to be having 100, like, whatever? And what you just said, so an appointment a day, let's just say 30, that's 360 appointments a year. I can tell you right now how you were the number 49 agent in the company last year. 30 appointments a month. 30 appointments a month. Like, that is the answer to that question. If you want to, this is not directed at you, Larry. This is directed at somebody listening to this right now. Like, if you want to take your agency to the next level, you want to write more financial services, you want to multi-line more, you want deeper relationships with your customers so your retention level's better. Meet with your customers either in person or virtually. Larry, you just hinted at this, and I say this all the time. Phone appointments do not count because people are busy. They're not paying attention. They're distracted. You have to have either in-person or virtual appointments, and I will leave it at that.
Okay, so I want to get on to the team. Let's move into the team structure because I'm sure you've gone through different iterations of what that looks like.
Yeah. Haven't we all?
Oh, the heavy sigh. I felt that in my bones. I know exactly what that sound is. Talk to me a little bit about what it looks like now and what you've learned and how to structure your team for success.
Gosh, it's funny you're asking me that because, I mean, I'm literally in the process of modifying, I think, again, just from you guys and other input I'm getting from people and just watching how customers change over time to some degree, their expectations and things like that. So when I first started, it was hybrid everywhere with I think I hate to even say it out loud, a secretary. They had that term back then, but we were straight up. Everybody does everything in their alphabet for years. Then our company came out with this thing called the THEO model, THEO, the efficient office, THEO. And I looked at that, and I was just at the point where I was starting to grow a little bit or a lot. And I thought, man, having people just do sales, that's weird. But when I kind of started dabbling into it, talking to colleagues, people who were, again, way smarter, way more successful than I was, and they were starting to embrace the specialist concept. I didn't want to go that far because then if your life specialist is out, who's going to sell the life insurance? So we went to this THEO model and started doing sales only, service only, and then maybe a hybrid in between. And we've maintained that model for a very long time. And it was easier to train salespeople. It's hard to train a service person. They've got to know so much. But But a lot of things I've been listening to recently are some of the trophy club people in our company, the top people. They're bringing people on in a service capacity and then promoting them into sales. Went to a seminar in Houston with a colleague. We flew out there. Gosh, it's been 2 weeks now, maybe 3 weeks, and was listening to their team members talk. And like the first hour or two was team members talking. And I thought, what a waste of my time. What am I doing here? Flew all the way to Houston. It's 100 degrees outside. But what I realized looking back at it was listening to these people talk and how they just loved this guy they worked for, the agent they worked for, and how he developed them from, essentially an admin assistant into this rock star salesperson. I've started leaning towards that now going forward, especially as we start to grow and have this other office. But for now, my most experienced person is a fully virtual, for the most part, operations manager. She handles all the high-level stuff, payroll, big commercial cases, management of the team members, that kind of thing. I've got an office manager who's really a sales manager. He's an aspirin. I hope I can hold on to him a little bit longer, but I think he's going to be going out at the agent very soon. So Daniel, if you're listening, hang on there, buddy. He is the sales motivator. He is every day, every morning, doing the numbers, the stuff I'm terrible at, the consistency. So Daniel is the sales manager. And then Lindsay is our service manager, 100% virtual, 100% virtual. She lives a long way away, but does a ton of stuff, usually works in the afternoons and follows up on a lot of service items. Then I've got one hybrid that we just went to a hybrid. So Ashley is kind of a hybrid. Everybody else is sales except for our front office person, our little angel. She's bilingual and can do like 5 things at one time. And, like we used to call them traffic cops, somebody who could manage the whole office from the front desk. And that has worked well for us, but I'm starting to think my next hire might start in a service capacity, and then we see how they do working them into the sales position. That's going to be a huge change for us. Courtney, it's going to be a big change for us. So, but watching this other agent who has like 16,000 auto policies and, just crushing it, following the footsteps again, the exact footsteps of what successful people are doing, hopefully will make you at least a little more successful, I would think.
Yeah, I would agree. Success leaves clues. I have heard a lot about this too, about starting in the service position, training them, because the service position is actually becoming more inside sales than it is just straight service like it used to be. It's very much focused on growth. Because either way, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out and they don't have that sales mentality. If they're exceptional at service, well, perfect. You've already filled the need. So I love that you're bringing that up. Now, you're in an interesting spot in your career because we're getting ready to open another agency. So talk a little bit about how you're going to adjust your current team and what that looks like with your new team with the second office.
Well, the other office is a big agency. It's going to be split up, obviously a lot of different ways. And the initial use of the old office, the legacy office, will be to support a lot of the calls that will be coming in, because there's going to be a tremendous volume of calls, confusion, people not knowing where they are, that sort of thing. So initially, we're going to have the managers kind of oversee both offices a little bit. The new office has tremendous team members that have a tremendous amount of experience. They know the customers. But again, we're getting a very small piece of it. So I think at this point, I'm going to run that office in the same fashion that I'm running the legacy for now, sales and service exclusively, and then have some of the hybrid aspects done by the management people. When there's things that are kind of in between, have the management people kind of take care of that. But we'll have phone calls in both offices, incoming phone calls anyway, and then just start the same processes that we've used in our old office. They've worked. I don't see any reason to change that. Meeting with people, seeing the people, butts in chairs, all that stuff. And then, making sure the new team understands the same culture that we have. The former agent and I have a long time friendship, and we are definitely on the same, cultural piece of it. We both run our offices the same way, so won't be a lot of changes. I mean, we're gonna, rinse and repeat, wash, rinse and repeat, and adjust as necessary.
Okay, so let's talk about culture. Teach us. You're like Yoda right now. You've been doing this for 25 years. Let's talk about people. Let's talk about culture. Like, how are you keeping people? What have you learned about a team and how you should lead them? Like, give us everything that you think that we need to know to set us up for success.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. I
So
called you Yoda, so it's like
yeah,
I'm just gonna sit here and listen.
I told y'all when we started this that an older agent back in the day was writing a ton of auto policies, and I insisted that I go to lunch with him. I was still a newbie, and made him let me take him to lunch. We went to lunch and had some small talk, and finishing up lunch, I said, how are you writing all these cars? You gotta give me something here. And he literally looked at me and said, Larry, you just got to be nice to people. And as simple as that seemed, I've told that story many, many times, and there was a lot of information in that little statement, just be nice to people. And we all know what he meant. Back then, I didn't get it. I was looking for that silver bullet. But a lot of my colleagues, when I hire people, first of all, I use the CTS system to kind of screen everybody. I've kind of, Steve would kill me for saying this, but I've kind of butchered his scoring method. My rule is, if your total sales and service score is 100, I'm going to interview you. Because what I've found that I think you mentioned earlier, even people who are very good at service in our world can eventually be really good salespeople because it's all relationship and pivoting and all of that. So, I really look for people who have that combined score of 100 on the CTS. So there's that. And I tell people when I hire them, look, I just want you to be happy. Whatever that looks like, that's what I need. I've got some criteria that I need you to meet, but in the end, I just want you to be happy. A lot of colleagues other agents have given me a little bit of flack for the way I pay because I pay differently than a lot of agents. I share all the new commissions that come into the office with the team based on criteria and monthly scorecards and things like that. But I don't have a lot of turnover. And people that come stay for a long time. And I think if you are fair in what you're doing when it comes to compensation and the goals that you set, and you have reasonable expectations, and you do good training, I think I told y'all earlier, I'm terrible at consistent training. The systems I'm good at, but the training part I'm not good at. So having programs like the Weaver Sales Academy, having an operations manager and a sales manager that are fantastic trainers, teaching the team members how to do the day-to-day stuff. That's really the key. Good training, fair pay, and letting them feel like they're part of the organization. And our scorecard, monthly scorecard, is based on all the new commissions that come in every month. If they're hitting their guidelines, they're sharing that. So when it's really busy in the office and the salespeople are crushing it, the service team's getting a cut of that. So the service team's thought process, let me take more off of these salespeople so they can sell more so I can get more of a cut. So it's just this big circle, and it has worked really well. I've had lots of friends who have adopted, pieces and parts of that. There's something about a culture where everybody feels like they're pushing or pulling in the same direction. And how you make that happen is difficult sometimes, but that's how we've managed to do it. Everybody's got a cut of everything happening in the office. And that turns into more than a financial thing. It turns into more of a team aspect where everybody sees what we've got to get done. And it just makes a big difference. So that's really the culture we've built in our office. I know you probably hear similar things all the time, but that's my story.
I wear this jersey and I bleed this blood. Yes, that's what that is. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so can we talk a little bit about expectations? Because I would love for agents to hear what you would have if you were to hire a sales producer. What would be the expectations that they would need to produce in your agency?
Wow. Well, my sales leader and a couple of other people that know me well say that I'm really good with the carrots and I'm terrible with the sticks. My
I like
my
that
sales
too. I
leader,
would say the same thing.
yeah, my sales leader says I wield a wet noodle. So that's yeah. I'm terrible at the accountability piece, guys. I see you laughing, Michael. So um, you know, accountability. I hate the word. I try to find people that want to do well for themselves and for me. Um, and I think that's a hard person to find. It's really hard to analyze that in the early days of when you hire somebody. But that's what we're really looking for. So the numbers, I want them to cover their base pay, whatever that looks like, every month. You know, if they're making 45 when they start, then I want them bringing in 45,000 of commissions annually, obviously, if you annualize it. So generally somewhere between 40 and 50 apps and between 45 and 50,000 in premium is really the target. We want at least 10% of those to be financial services. That is the goal. In our office, I've seen people on y'all's show. I'm not one of the trophy club crushing, 500 apps a day person, but our stated goal is 200 apps a month and 20 of them being financial services. That's the goal. And that's the goal given the number of people we have right now. So as we grow, that number will change. But the 10% thing is big for me. If you can write 100 auto policies or 100 policies altogether, you need to find 10 of those that are going to be financial services.
Yep.
If you can make that consistent, I tell all my aspirants that have come through my office, the ones that are there now, if you can do that consistently and then teach someone else to do it, you're going to be a rock star.
Yep.
So,
you know what I love, Larry? You're like, just a measly 200 apps a month and 20 financial services. It's
that's
Larry.
Goal. I didn't say we hit it every month.
But I know you do consistently get right around that, and you are a crusher,
Try.
and you have high retention on your business. So that is the one thing that sometimes we can't always talk about on the buzz. Is sometimes it's really easy to put up big numbers, but when you're losing 70% out the back door, that big number doesn't look so big, right? And so I know that your 200, you're retaining most of those, and so that's I know agents out there that they're just starting in the business. They're like 200 apps a month. They would love to be doing that. So I had to get a little chuckle because I'm like, that's just a measly 200 apps. No big deal. 20 financial services. That's
a big
amazing.
deal. It's a big deal for us.
It's a huge deal.
That's the goal, to try to get to that consistently. And, like I said, it's really hard to see other agents doing more than that. It's hard to see, some of these guys that have been on your pod. That's why I'm like, why in the world does he want me to be on this podcast? I mean, I'm not even in the stratosphere with these guys. But the reality is, writing the business the right way. I mean, I could teach a bunch of people to do things, to write a bunch of apps, but I don't want to be part of that story. Mm-hmm. And you got to balance the leads you're getting, the closing that you're doing, all that stuff. But bottom line is, yeah, our retention is competitive for our market, and it's because we're doing things the right way. And it just sticks in our craw all the time when we see other agents that are just putting up these massive numbers, and then you hear their customers for whatever reason, in the community, or they come to our office for something, and you're like, you did what? It's just mind-boggling. But there's a lot of agents that are doing very well, that are doing it right, and those are the ones I want to be in the same group with those, because an old boss of mine said, when somebody's way out in front of everybody, there's a story, and you may not want to be a part of it, or maybe you do. So that, that's another thing to be very cautious of. So listen, we've talked about it before we came on the air. If you're doing it the right way, consistently, things are going to work out. Things are going to work out.
This has been so good. And I love that you bring that up. And I know that you laugh because it is a big number, and it is like, that's the goal and that's what we're working towards. But we have to hear that. Mm-hmm. Like, all of us at some point in our career are looking at somebody that's farther ahead going, what do I need to shoot for?
Yep.
Like,
right.
what is the next ceiling that I have to break through? So thank you for sharing that. I always love like real tangible numbers, because somebody needed to hear that exact number, and they just went back to the drawing board, and they're like, it's because we need to know what's possible. So many times we put these invisible ceilings on ourselves because we haven't seen somebody do it yet. So hearing you say this, you just unlocked a lot of ceilings.
Yeah. And I loved the 10% rule. So if you're required to write 50 apps a month, for example, 5 of those need to be financial services. Like that's just a really easy, if I'm a new agent or an agent looking to change a culture, compensation plans, expectations, what you just shared, that's a really easy rule to just be like, hey, here's the non-negotiable, here's the expectation. 10% rule, which means 10% of your production needs to be or has to be financial services. And that's just really easy to stick with and lean on. And simplicity sells in everything we do. So I appreciate it. Larry, this is.
I have one more question, though, before you wrap.
Okay,
I can hear you starting your outro here, and I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready because Larry, I do. You have so much experience, 25 plus years in the insurance industry. You've hit the leaderboards. I know you have the trophies and the rings and the trips, and you've done all of those things. If you had to give some advice to an agent listening right now of something they should not do or stop doing in their business, what would you tell them?
Something they should stop doing, huh? You know, if you're ignoring the return on investment, that's something that you should stop doing because, you know, a lot of people just don't even pay attention to it anymore. We spend a lot of money in our business, payroll, leads, all that stuff. And I think a lot of people just stop looking at it. That's something you should not do. You should not stop looking. You need to continually look at the return on your investment because when you stop doing that, you start throwing money in places that it probably doesn't need to be and wasting money. So even the new agent, focusing on return on investment is something that that you should all be doing. And if you've given up on that, go back to the drawing board because that's one of those things you've got to continually do because it's very easy to just waste money. And listen, if you're going to waste it, give it to a charity. Do something good with it. Don't just, you know, I feel so many agents just lighting money on fire and tossing it out the window. Go give it to Meals on Wheels or the free medical clinic or some, you know,
Amen.
you know, if you're gonna not look at it, at least give the money to something. Give it to somebody who can actually do something positive with it. So,
Wow, that's a mic drop. That's
Okay, you can end the episode now.
but
Okay.
but I do have a question to just go a little bit further into that. So, do you have like a rule? So like our rule on any like thing that we track on an ROI standpoint, like let's say we're trying a new marketing strategy. Our rule is always we're going to try it for 90 days before we make a decision to continue with it or stop it. And I've been around peers before where they'll try something for 2 or 3 weeks. They're like, it's just not working, shut it off. So just out of curiosity, Larry, do you have like a golden rule that you try to stick by when you try something new and measuring a return on investment? Just kind of tell us a little bit about
this is
that.
one of those do as I say, not as I do things.
Is this the wet noodle thing again?
I'm never gonna live that down. You know, I always say I'm gonna do it for 90 days. I made that mistake in the early days with team members. You know, I'm just going 90-day probation, and that turns into 6 months every time. Daniel in my office, the office manager I was telling you about, the aspirant that I've got, he's the numbers guy. Now, I'm pretty good with numbers, but he's really good with numbers. So his thing is not so much time as it is sample size. So a lot of times it doesn't come down to a time frame. It's how many of these widgets have we monitored so that we have enough of them to really make a decision. So that's another thing is, you know, it's not always time. Sometimes just, you know, if you're doing, for instance, warm transfers, super expensive leads. You know, if you do that for 90 days, you might have 30 of them, right? It depends how much money you're spending.
Yeah.
But that's not enough. You got to have 50 or 100 of those things to actually find out what your real return is. So for the people out there listening that really want to know the answer to that is make sure that your sample size and your time frame, or whichever it is that you should be measuring it by, is enough to make a good decision. Like I said at the beginning of this, Michael, don't let money keep you from making a good decision, right? Spend the money, it will come. So I used to say fake it till you make it, but that everybody says that. So
Spend the money, it will come. If you build it, they will come. It's
right.
It is true, though. I will affirm that sometimes a big financial decision requires you to become the next version of yourself. It requires you to make decisions in different ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to do that for that to come out. So I love the sample size. You need enough data to be able to make a decision.
Not my words. Daniel Pardue. Daniel's the one that says that's not a big sample size. Larry, we gotta get more before we make a decision. So he's good at that. And like I said, hire to your weakness. That needs to be the next podcast. Hire to your weakness.
Larry, we're going to have to do a part 2. This has been so much fun.
I've
This has
enjoyed
been
it
a lot of
too.
fun. This has been fantastic, Larry. Thank you again for your time. Like, as we appreciate you because we know you're busy. We know you have a lot going on, and you have dropped. I have an entire page of notes. So
Yes.
Wow.
I'm
honored.
You dropped a ton of nuggets today. I appreciate it. For all of those of you that are listening today, thank you as always. Time and attention are by far our most important assets. We appreciate you spending time with us today. I hope that you got as much out of Larry today as we did. Larry, thank you again for your time. If somebody wanted to connect with you on social media, follow you, is there any way for them to do that?
Just Larry Lucas State Farm. They'll
go.
find me. I make it real easy. You can email me. I've got an email. I don't give this out to the public because it's almost I feel like it's almost arrogant, but you can email me at it's larry@thelarrylucas.com.
I like it.
I do too.
I like it.
Larry at the Larry Lucas.
Yeah.
Well, Larry, thank you again. We appreciate it. You crushed it today, and we appreciate you so much.
Thank you guys. And listen, thank you for everything you guys do too. Like I said, my team loves the podcast. We've enjoyed the Weaver Sales Academy. We're always looking for something new. So thank y'all for doing what you're doing. You probably help more agents than you'll probably ever realize. I know y'all been real successful, but we have really enjoyed the podcast, and to be a part of it is just, like I said, the imposter syndrome's kicking in hard. So I appreciate the opportunity. I hope people listening will get something out of this. I really do.
Oh, they definitely
man.
will.
You dropped
know
all
what?
kinds of bombs.
Do me a
today.
favor. Before you stop playing this episode, before you move on and go about your day, shoot us a text, 816-727-7610. I want you to tell me your biggest takeaway from this episode, and I will share that to make sure that gets to Larry. I will make sure that whatever you took away got sent to Larry, because I know that you spoke to a lot of people today. So
That would be wonderful. That'd be a great affirmation. I appreciate that very much, guys.
yeah.
We'll definitely do that.